This conference will now be recorded.
All right, so today is Tuesday, April 28th, and as always, everything that we're going to be talking about today is for educational purposes only, and nothing is intended as any type of investment advice. All right, so overall, right now, this morning, we have some things out there. I mean, the list is a little bit small with new things that we have on our cliff notes, but we definitely have a little bit going on. Now, the first thing that I want to look at is INO. So this is one of those situations. I'm going to talk about Oxy in a second too. This is one of those situations that you have to understand. INO, how long have we been talking about it for? So let's just think about that for 1 second. As we go into this morning, how long have we been talking about INO for? Okay, and when I say we, just chat. Yeah, a long while. So what does that tell us? What does that tell us if we keep seeing a stock that typically really, I mean, at the end of the day, really is a 15 minutes of fame type stock? We keep talking about it. Okay, what's happening? Yeah, a lot of traffic and market makers. So guess what that means? It's getting complicated. So it's not really, and that's what we're going to talk about today in Traders Exchange. Is we're going to try to simplify things. Okay, but what does it mean? It's so simple. Think about it in the simplest terms. Okay, if what's happening? There's positions both ways, which with anything that X is going to have, there we go. It's building, 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 building. So guess what? Story's going to get complicated. Okay, we know that we have buying that's going to crush past this, that 16 level, that 1550. Okay, where you guys saw the prints yesterday. Obviously, yesterday I was, with the website. Oh, that's another thing too. Is that well, I'll get to that at the end. But we know it's building. So guess what? A stock that's in a building phase, okay, what level do you think that stock is on? And I want you guys to understand this. A stock that's in a building phase, what level does that make the stock? Yeah, it's very, very, very high. Not a 7, it's up. Okay, normally INO, first of all, if you've been doing this forever and you really get this, it's not that complicated. But it's very, very complicated. Number one reason. What's the number one reason that INO is such a complicated stock? I already feel like I'm doing Traders Exchange, but I'm not going to just give you answers. Okay, so thick, 100%, but give me a better word, Andy. And this is the number one thing you can never go wrong with. If you say it, you're more than likely going to be right, almost always. There's so much volume, so much volume. So guess what? Things are going to be very hard. So you have to understand something. If you're level, okay, if you're at a certain level where a ton of prints and a ton of building and a ton of psychological, basically warfare of this stock is going on, this is going to be a very hard stock for somebody to be able to read. Because look at yesterday. Okay, you're talking about almost 122 million shares. So you have to understand these things, is that there's going to be so much noise that comes into this. So what you really have to do is you have to focus on what the overall game plan is. And I'm getting ahead of myself because I already have our topic for our Traders Exchange. But at the same time, you guys, you have to understand that. So see, like for instance, right here, 1450. Okay, this doesn't mean anything. Okay, well, I mean, don't get me wrong, it does mean something, but this isn't enough. Okay, what really means something is right here. Okay, these big prints that follow each other, the reaction prints that come in, so we know that they're building. Okay, but we have to understand, when are they showing us that they're going to bring it down to actually build? So at the moment right now, if we look at the actual pre-market prints, we come in, we can see there's a ton of buying. So typically in the pre-market, when we see something like that, and then we file after that huge amount of buying, that we see these 1450 prints come in, it doesn't really mean anything. But what it does mean is it shows us that there's riders that basically are riding it back down. Or we can go into the pre-market and understand the fact that people are going to take profit. There was a ton of people yesterday that probably at 4 o'clock ended up buying this to go back up. And then guess what? They're up what, you're talking about 14.50 from 13. Let's just make it easy numbers. That's $1.50 on a $13 stock technically. So there's going to be people that are coming back in. It's still going to react to these prints, but at the same time, we continue to see them buying and coming in. But when we have these riders that are coming back down, it's showing us that they want to bring it back down a little bit more before they come back up. All right, one thing that you need to think about is just the psychology of when the market makers are going to make money. So when the market makers are ready to make money in this aspect, is it going to be, are we going to have to guess if they're ready to make money? Are we going to have to guess on a trigger? Are we going to have to guess on what? No. So we have to understand that a little bit of a move, a 20 cents, a 50 cents, even a 75-cent move isn't really going, it's going to be exactly, it's going to be so completely obvious. They're going to release it. Okay, and you guys, we have to think about what a release actually is. And a release is basically telling us the fact that it's time to make money. It's time to let it go. It's going to be obvious because they've been building for such a long time. All right, so when we see that huge buying that comes in, but then these riders almost immediately after that it shows us that they're still ready to build, because based off of, we have to look at it and understand that everything is relative. So based off the amount of buying that we see coming in, this looks like a huge amount. It really isn't that big, but it also is telling us, it's not that it means nothing. It's basically just telling us that they're going to make a little bit of money first. They're going to have to bring it back down before they're ready to actually release it. So once they do release it, we have enough buying to, I'm going to, just take a shot in the dark. I'm going to conservatively say 18, but really, if we go to the high of what this is, I mean, it has enough buying to be able to go to the high of 1936, which really, it should end up testing 20. But these are the things that we have to realize going into our morning meeting. So obviously, as we can see, coming down, they're still building. When they're ready to release, we're not going to see prints like this. And the easiest way to understand that, and once again, this is kind of like a little bit going into what we're going to do in Traders Exchange today. But when they're ready to release it, you have to understand when a stock is going parabolic and being released, how many big prints do we see typically? Do we see a lot, or is it very hard for big prints to happen? Yeah, very, very hard. So when we still see stuff like this, that's something that's telling us, well, guess what? We know what the market makers are thinking. So just think about what we just went over right now and going into the morning with the rest of the stocks that we have. But we're in Traders Exchange, we're going to make things a lot more simple. Okay, and obviously our rules are pretty simple. I mean, they're not hard. Most people are going to understand it, but we're going to make things a lot simpler in understanding just basic techniques that the market makers are actually going to be doing. So obviously we need to come down first, and then we're going to look for that trigger back towards that upside. But remember, that trigger is going to be obvious. All right, BWEN. This is on my regular list. I like this stock. All right, if you look at something before 8 o'clock that's trading like this and pushing up on 70,000 shares, 70,000 shares is not a lot whatsoever, but it's all relative. Coming into the morning, way before 8 o'clock, most people can't even execute a trade before 8 o'clock. And we can see there's a lot of buying that's back up here. So we can see right now it's coming into a spot. We broke this little support level that we have right here, but this is the number that I'm going to be looking for. And because it's so close, guess what? The number is 2. So we want it to hold 2, but a trigger back to the upside is going to come back towards this huge buying and the difficulty of trade that we saw earlier this morning. So normally this would be a sideless stock, but at the same time, it's got variables. Those simple variables of looking before 8 o'clock and before most people can actually even execute a trade are telling us that there's a ton of buying. And when I say ton of buying, I mean the difficulty of trade of what they actually did to be able to buy back up here. So it's just been kind of trickling down. We haven't seen anything that, really any type of trigger towards that downside or any type of real release towards that downside. So when we hold a trigger back towards the upside is exactly what I'm going to be looking for pretty much once exactly when the morning starts. So SDC, this is another one. Okay, we come back over here. We can see they're selling. There has to be selling in order for a stock that has this much buying coming into it in order for them to be able to build. We know, we can see right now during the pre-market that this is in a building phase, because when you get a huge amount of buying that comes in at, especially right around these major levels, and then you see these, this big burst of selling that comes in, obviously there has to be profit taking. But at the same time, it has enough buying to be able to get back up towards that 750. Okay, and I'm not even talking about right here. So really, at the end of the day, what we're going to be looking for is, once we come back up towards that resistance point, what are the short-term prints that are happening at that moment? We need short-term prints to be able to break down the resistance that we have there, to really be able to allow us to basically fly past what we have. But 750, you have to remember, is still going to be where the highest volume is going to come, especially when we look at the actual chart itself, especially after it breaks these resistance points. Because we have to understand, the sellers are getting weak up here. As it keeps pushing, every time it pushes into a level, the sellers are going to end up getting weak. So if we continue to see new buying as it pushes back down, it's basically telling us that we have the ability to break back up above it. So overall, we can see, coming into that 7 level, yeah, there's selling. We know there's going to be selling, but once again, the main focus is going to be on what is the new buying. What buying, the buying that we saw coming in earlier, that came in, right? Let's break it down. So if we look right here, 710, 715, 716, 718, that tells us right here that they have to make at least 25 cents. So if it's happening at the 20 level, we know 45 is a highly likely spot for it to go. And then obviously 750 is going to be, the level that we actually look for, because more than likely that's going to be the best spot for an order to come in. But these are the things that we have to look at. And once again, we're going to be talking way more about this as we go into our Traders Exchange today at 12:30. And then IBIO. So this is definitely, it needs to, I personally, I wouldn't put this as the first stock to be trading coming into the morning. Now, you guys know my game plan. I always start with something that has a bigger range first, because a bigger range allows me to start trading other things, because I know that it has a lot more room to go. So this is going to be the first thing that you're looking at. Although if you're only trading one stock, look at the buying. Look at what we see coming into here. But after we get this huge buying at 138, we're almost guaranteed at some point very soon to see a bunch of selling coming into it. The selling is not what's important. It's what we see coming in. So that 138, we have to kind of take this in 5-cent increments right now, because that's how it's trading during the pre-market. But this amount right here tells us 145, okay? And 145 is higher than what we see our resistance point. So this is breaking down what that resistance is. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about how to use the chart to take out nonsense. But I like a lot of what we're seeing coming in. There's a lot of buying. Obviously, it made a big move coming into the aftermarket. But we have to see, are there profit taking? Okay, profit taking doesn't mean anything. Profit taking without buying means the stock doesn't have any more room coming back up. But we can almost guarantee we're going to start to see selling coming into it as we come back up. But look at the actual prints themselves and determine from these prints exactly how much does that person need to make. So 138, technically, if it's moving in 5 cents, okay, they need to make it needs to go up to 143. All right, but the more buying we see, that starts to get higher. Okay, and here's the selling that comes back. See, so essentially, this is what we have to do in our morning meetings. We have to start understanding what the game plan is. But just looking at something like this, it's trading 125,000 shares per minute coming into the pre-market. We know if we're on a lower level, guys, this is going to be the hardest stock on our list to be able to read. Almost guaranteed. And when I say hardest, I don't mean it's hard to read. What I mean is that there's going to be so much information coming in all at once. So if you're not the greatest at being able to take out noise, not for you. So just something to understand as we continue to go into our trading and as we set up for our morning game plan. All right, so anything else out there? Oh, I want to talk about Oxy for a second. All right, so Oxy, we know as it's been coming back up, we have enough selling to pretty much hit 5, okay? But we've been seeing a ton of buying that's coming in the past few days. All right, so I just want you guys to think about this game plan. All right, what would make the most sense? Now, we all know 15 is a very hard level to hold. It's a big psychological level that comes back into it. So just think about a market maker. What would make the most sense? Okay, especially if you're going to be looking to go short. Well, it would mean break over 15, push past 15, give retail that, that warm and cozy feeling that we're going to go back up above it. All right, and then once we get up there, we need to wait for the buying to stop. So it doesn't mean that there's not going to be any type of buying into it, but the money flow is going to basically show us the fact that the sellers are going to start coming in and the buying is going to get lower and lower and lower and lower. And that's what we're going to be looking for here. So as I saw this morning, there's definitely some buying that's still coming into it, but of course there is, because would it make any sense at 1442 right now to not test 15? And especially if you're going to go short with shares, would it make any sense not to break it above 15, get all retail all happy, they feel safe because it's on a huge support level, and then take it back down? So just something to look right there. So BBBY, okay, I saw this coming up a bunch yesterday, but look at the way it's trading right now. Okay, so our morning list, one of the things that you have to understand about your morning list is it's not just stocks that fit criteria, it's stocks that, does this have the best chance of something to focus on? Okay, the way that it's trading right now, does it tell us once the market opens that it's going to be able to trade consistently? So yes, 651,000 shares, you're not wrong. Okay, you're not wrong with it exactly, Alex. It's a sideless stock, and absolutely, we'll put it on there. Okay, we can see coming over 7, we got some nice buying that's there. And pretty much it looks like almost all buying since 650. All right, but it's just not trading that well. So it's not going to be our main focus, but it's definitely something that is worthy of being put on there. But just remember, there's so many stocks that have possibilities. We want to find the ones that tell us this is what's going to happen during our morning list and during, our pre-market before we get into the actual market. All right, so that looks like it is probably it. Anything else, guys? Anything else that we missed? So remember, Traders Exchange is at 12:30. We're going to be talking about some interesting things today. Oh, okay, so Nat, I was just looking at. All right, 100%. The only thing that I was a little bit worried about with it is how consolidated it's trading during the pre-market, because usually during the pre-market, it kind of gets a little bit more of a release, and it's kind of almost the same thing as yesterday, but absolutely. And that's not even a sideless stock though, because if you remember the amount of buying that came in yesterday, the amount of times that it hit that 7 level, the amount that it's jumped up so far and still getting new buying during the highs, you can see these jackhammer prints that are coming into that 8 level. It has all the opportunity in the world to be able to break up above. But when we see something like this that kind of goes in that aftermarket and comes back up, and we don't really have those controlling prints coming in, it's a little bit worrisome. Excuse me. But at the same time, that 100%. Yeah, we'll see. The one thing that we can see about the prints is that we know that 8, we can see there's a big order there compared to everything else. So 8 has definitely got a lot of interest. We just want to see what happens. What's the reaction to 8? All right, and then I don't want to get even further into it because we're going to talk about this almost all Traders Exchange on how to take out the noise by using what we have, the tools that we have there. So that 100%. All right, guys, so let's get ready for our morning. I will talk to, all right, Ray, almost done, but we have another one. All right, say ARCT, unfortunately, no. Nope. Okay, we have no volume, 49,000 shares. We have one print at 35, which actually this one print at 35 is a pretty big deal compared to what the, relative to things, but not going to be something that we're going to be able to focus on. So I can make anything out of this. I kind of actually just by looking at it have an idea what's going to happen, but not something that we should be focusing on. All right, so once again, let's focus on what we just talked about. All right, let's make sure that we understand what's noise and what's not noise. Okay, if a stock gets a huge amount of buying right under, right under a level, ballsy prints. Let's focus on the things that we know that make things a lot easier. And let's go from there. I will talk to everyone in the chat. I look forward to our Traders Exchange at 12:30, and happy trading.